I want to thank you for giving me some of your time today, being able to share some of your story and some of your experiences. I definitely appreciate it. And like I said, it's about being able to share truly like some of the things that people are doing, especially here in Mississippi, but also like giving them their flowers too. So I'm glad the last question had you a little bit stumped because that's the point.
Yes, I appreciate you for having me. Not gonna lie, when you reached out to me, I was like, is this a spam person? Like, huh? But then I went to your page and I saw that you had done other interviews and everything, and I was like, oh no, this is real. And then I was like, oh wait, somebody wants to interview me? Like, huh? Like, where did? So I got some questions for you, if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine.
All right, great. So like, how? First off, how did you find me?
Okay, so um, trying to remember the exact moment I did. I know I've been following Mississippi Votes, their Instagram page, for at least 2 years. Might be a little bit longer, might be a little bit shorter than that. But I remember a post they made was September, October of last year when y'all had some of those new positions and
Mm-hmm.
y'all were announcing some of them and everything like that. And that was around the time frame when I was starting the process of me trying to figure out all the logistics for this podcast. Um, and at that point in time, I was coming up with a interview list too. It's a very long list. I hope I get a chance to actually interview all the people on it, but it's a very long list. And so I saw you and a couple other folks, and I was like, actually, it'd be kind of great if I could get some people from Mississippi Votes on here to talk about specific things, talk about Mississippi Votes, obviously, but talk about specific things. And I know they have a whole lot more to their story than like kind of what meets the eye for Mississippi Votes. And so I was like, I'm gonna come back to that. And so when I went through trying to make my list for real, not gonna lie, it wasn't anything specific. It was kind of random. And so I was like, well, I'll ask Taylor and then a couple other people. And so you were one of the people who did agree and everything. And so that's kind of how that happened.
Okay, okay, I like that. I like that. Um, and so another question is, I know you said like how you got into doing this, but what made you like say, okay, I'm gonna start, like how you said you started planning the process. What made you actually say, I'm gonna start doing this podcast? This is something that I want to do. I'm gonna do it.
So this is actually my second podcast. My first one I started in October of 2019, and it was self-titled. It was the James Chapman podcast, and it was a solo podcast. I ended up having three guests, um, conversation type styles that I did towards the end of it. But that was then, and it lasted until I actually just posted about this on LinkedIn. October ish of 2021. And the reason why it might have been a little bit longer than that, but the reason why I like ended is because I just never got back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, since I started before COVID and then came back to school the fall of COVID, because I was actually at a co-op that spring semester or whatnot, and so I was out of the state and everything. But I came back that fall semester, still going through COVID and everything, and being hybrid. Yeah, we were kind of hybrid at Mississippi State at that point. Um, Certain classes and everything, but that was like my worst semester. Um, Not necessarily your freshman semester, but it was
Yeah.
my worst semester because I had all C's, and I was like, dang, like a lot of those classes they really could have been D's, and some of those classes might have been F's. But I basically had to lock in and focus to try to get myself at least back to the C level in some of those classes. And at that point, I was like, I'm gonna get back to my podcast. I'm gonna get back to it next year. Blase, blase, blase. And I never really got back to it like that. I did a few more episodes, like I said, in 2021, and I posted them and everything. But I zeroed in on school basically, and just kind of never got back to it. And during that time when I wasn't doing it, up until graduation and last May, I kept telling myself, well, not like kept telling myself, but it kept like kind of hitting me like I want to get back into doing the podcast. But the other thing too was the people who some of my friends and like other people who happened to listen to it, they were asking me all the time whenever they would see me or talk to me like, when are you gonna get back to your podcast? Like I actually kind of enjoyed it and everything like that, and it really it really made me feel some type of way because back then I didn't have the mindset that I do now for it. Um, I was kind of it was a little I wanted it to be for people, but it was a little selfish in a sense in terms of like I was so heavy focused on the views and the listens and stuff and trying to make sure my friends and everything were posting about it and different things of that nature. And so I kind of got wrapped up in that as well. But now I'm in a completely different mental headspace about it, and I'm truly just doing it for the fun of it, but also being able to like share people's stories because I'm a storyteller. I like to tell people stories too, and so all that to say, like it really made me think like, no, like I want to get back to doing the podcast. And
Okay.
so I knew potentially that I was gonna move to the guest based podcast, interview based, but I just didn't know how I wanted to do it. And so I think it was like August of last year where I really was like, no, I think I just want to change it all together. And so that's when I decided to move in this direction. And the reason why it took me so long is because I'm just very particular in how I do things, and I wanted to
Yeah.
plan everything, every little detail out to the best degree that I could. Especially since I had the experience of the podcast originally and kind of doing stuff on the fly. But I was like, no, I'm gonna get all the artwork done. I'm gonna get all the accounts made because then too, I was only posting on Instagram and not really feeling secure about it. Um, and occasionally, because I didn't have a page for it either, but I was just like my own Instagrams and occasionally posting about it. I was like, no, I'm gonna do everything for it. I'm gonna have the Instagram, the Facebook, the TikTok, and everything. Make sure the YouTube channel is good. Make sure the other streaming platforms are together. Like I'm gonna do everything that I need to do to make sure that when I get ready to launch, this is together. And so that's the reason why it took me like an 8 month process, basically. Um,
Yeah.
and also too, I just kept thinking about more and more people to add to my list, and so that's why it's a long list. And so at I think it was March where I was like, no, I need to figure out like the actual numbering of who I want to ask and everything,
Yeah.
and not just kind of be random about it. And so depending on how people accept or have the time available for it, my it's gonna seem random, but the guest I have, it kind of flows in a certain pattern for what I'm trying to present and everything. So
Okay.
that's where
And
it was.
my last question is what have you learned from doing like this second round of podcasts? What have you learned the most from guests on your show, like from doing them?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, so you're the sixth person I've interviewed so far. The thing I've learned the most,
Or just one thing that you've learned. It doesn't have to be like the most. That
um,
kind of makes the question a little bit harder.
I don't know. I got it. Kind of. I think what I was searching for, in a sense of like Mississippi has a lot to offer, and there's a lot of different people doing a lot of different things that are all basically interconnected in a sense. And so being able to actually know people's journeys and where they got to, and learning their thought processes and their desire and the passion that they have for the things that they're doing, like that's the thing that I've learned that's made me kind of like smile the most on it, basically.
Okay. I like that. And I love that for you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. I'm passing it back over to the interviewer.